Next, we're going to be looking at the discriminant of a quadratic, and that word is a big word, mathematical word, and all that simply means is if we have the quadratic formula, which we have right here, if we look at the discriminant of a quadratic formula is this right here, b squared minus 4ac. Now, this is interesting, of course, because we know that square roots cannot be negative, right? So we can use this to determine what type of roots we have. So this right here is called the discriminant. This right here, b squared minus 4ac, is called the discriminant. Now, here are the three cases of how we can use this to describe our solutions or our roots or our zeros. So if the discriminant, and the discriminant can sometimes be used, you'll see, as this delta sign. It's a triangle. Sometimes you'll see it as D. I'll just use delta for now. If the discriminant, so the discriminant can also be written like that, is negative, that means it is less than 0. Then there are no x-intercepts, so this is what the graph would look like. No roots, which is the same thing as x-intercepts. And here it says there are two imaginary solutions. We'll get there at some point, okay? We'll get there at some point, not yet. But the discriminant is negative. Now, that means that b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. If the discriminant is equal to 0, you have b squared minus 4ac equal to 0. That means it just touches the x-axis, the curve touches the x-axis in just one spot. So one x-intercept, there's one root, there's only one solution. Last one, if the discriminant is positive, so that means it's greater than 0, we have b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0. Looking at the graph, that means we have two solutions, two x-intercepts, and here are your three cases for your discriminant. Okay, so let's, using what we just learned, to determine the nature of the roots, just the nature, not the actual roots, just looking at the discriminant. So remember, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It is this part of the quadratic formula. Okay. All right, so I have a equal 2, b equal negative 2, c equal 3. All I have to do is plug this in, and b squared is negative 2 squared minus 4 times 2 times 3. This is 4 minus 8 times 3 is 24. That is negative 20. And this tells me that my discriminant is less than 0. If my discriminant is less than 0, there are no real roots. So going back up here, if your discriminant is negative, there are no roots and your graph won't cross the x-axis. Remember, the reason why we can tell that what our solutions are, because at this negative 20, you would just be plugging negative 20 into underneath the quadratic or the square root sign. And you can't take the square root of a negative number. So you would have not a real solution, no solutions, okay, no real roots. All right, and B, again, same thing. A equals 3, B equals negative 4, C equals negative 2. I'm looking at the nature of my discriminant. So it's negative 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 2. And that's 16 minus plus, 12, 24. And that is equal to 40. That is positive. So my discriminant is greater than 0. So there are two distinct, that just means there's different roots.